2024 has been a relatively slow year for Sony. Not many new cameras have been announced, and after the releases of the A7s III and FX3, and both being basically the same camera, I think it's a perfect time to ask, what's next for Sony? It's getting cold here in the UK, and winter is definitely on its way, and it's that time of the year when we see lots of tech releases. Normally we'd see big products from Sony too, and if rumours are to be believed, the A7 III and others are delayed, and this is due to a parts shortage. Certainly Canon confirmed last month that delays are affecting them. However, it got me thinking about the next lineup of Sony cameras, as I use them to shoot because I work in TV. Now, I did think initially about specs and what I'd like to see, but as a former BBC journalist, I wanted to maybe look a little deeper, as there was one or two things on my mind that I think needed addressing. I, for one, keep an eye out for what cameras are on the way, and I guess it's no secret that we're all waiting for the new A7S, FX3 Mark II, or both. Sony releases cameras all of the time, and I guess that's not the issue, and it's only my opinion, but I think Sony's camera delivery over recent years has been a bit disjointed at best, and I think that needs some clarifying. When the A7s III was announced in the fall of 2020, I had my order in before the presentation had even finished, and to be honest, they had me at 4K 120. And that camera has served me well ever since. The picture quality is on point, the autofocus is brilliant, I have no complaints. Well, I say that, I do have one complaint. After the release of that camera, Sony then announced the FX3. The camera looked different, a different body, no EVF, but the specs mirrored that of the A7s III. To me, this made absolutely no sense because I think most of us in the video world want a camera that focuses on being video first, and even something as small as, say, a zoom rocker on the FX3 suggests that is video first. But initially I let the issue go because ultimately, barring a few differences here and there, they're the same camera. But that was until the software updates came out. The FX3 has been prioritised for certain features such as a 180-degree shutter angle and a new interface. Both features bring the camera closer to the other Sony Cineline products, but as an early adopter and someone who works in TV, I'd like those features in my A7S as well. And as the title of this video suggests, it's left me with an element of, say, buyer's regret. Now, I could trade it in and get an FX3, that's for sure, but it would cost me money to fix an issue that started in the four walls of Sony HQ. And it's not the first time that something like this has happened. Remember the FX9 and the FX6? Sony released a flagship TV camera in the FX9, only to create a much better system in the FX6 less than 12 months later. Of course, the word better is my opinion, but so many camera operators I know swapped the FX9 for the FX6, and they too felt hard done by, claiming Sony should have had a better strategy and more joined up thinking, releasing one camera for the technology to be superseded by a cheaper option within a year. Yes, there are differences between the two cameras, some of which may be important to you, but for most, the FX6, a Netflix-approved camera, is perfect. And don't forget, movies are being shot on iPhones these days. Anyway, back to the A7s III and the FX3. I personally would like to see Sony join up their thinking and ensure that we as the consumers are at the forefront of their minds. And is that too much to ask? Well, it possibly could be. 4 years ago, Sony knew about the production of the A7s III and the FX3. They knew both cameras would basically be the same, at least internally, so why produce both? And as we've since found, the FX3 has had the better updates and is basically the better version of the same camera. So with this, Sony are in danger of alienating one section of its consumers whilst keeping the others happy. I would certainly hope that departments are talking to each other in Sony HQ, so I, like most of you, will be watching closely to Sony's next move. And Sony, please don't mess it up. Because I, for one, don't want to have any buyer's regret or envy towards others. I think it's a lesson for all camera manufacturers, not just Sony. And in these days of financial pressures in the world, people just don't have money to burn. And because of social media, we all notice when things are, let's just say, a bit all over the place. It would be good to have a clear strategy in place for future cameras so that we as the consumers aren't put in this situation again.